Welcome to 13 Art Inventions Children Should Know. Alright, here we go. There's a lot here to be talking about. This painting of on the easel being portable now. A lot of weird things happening here. For a second, I thought this person was doing the middle finger, but then I realized he wasn't. And of course, so much more. Even graffiti painting is still new too. Let's get this started with. Alright, first off, cave painting. Cave painting was actually here for centuries. In fact, it's actually been here for at least 3 millennia. Actually, more or less like millions, like hundreds of millennia, okay? Hundreds of centuries and hundreds of centuries. Of course, cave painting themselves actually came from the carbon where went ahead to burn a piece of wood, whatever the black stuff that were left behind, we went ahead and used that to go ahead and make our little paintings. Now you might be thinking, since art was just invented back then, people wouldn't be good at it, but then you realize they are not good at it. In fact, these look so real, at least for back then they look so real, that it almost feels like we can go ahead and write them if they completed the drawing, of course. Next up we have drawing nature. Now back then, like centuries ago, people thought that I don't need to draw an actual mountain as it looks like a mountain. That's completely useless. And then they realized that maybe drawing nature the perfect way is actually right too. This person named Giuliano in his painting La Tempesta. This person himself is actually really good at doing these kinds of things as well. Like, he was the first person to actually be able to draw a flash of lightning. And with that flash of lightning, it became a spark towards drawing nature as it really is. Of course, then you also have snowy winter days and so much more to really talk about. Now, this isn't the first time winter was drawn, of course. But this is the first time that people were able to draw things as the way they were. Now, this is a manner, and when sellers, I painted people sowing seeds, harvesting crops, picking grapes, etc. And doing many other things. For January, he actually had a very original idea. And this idea he actually got from this. He went ahead and basically drew some, because it was impossible to actually draw and work. You can't work in winter. He went ahead and decided to draw the family, the royal family, the people living in the manor, enjoying their lives. And then of course, this painting, then we have central perspective. Everything's basically start becoming real. This is when perspective painting started coming up too. And this is called the Trinity. And now, it was just not the central perspective that was actually new in Masasio's fresco. It was the architecture that it detected. Well, the model for this new-looking chapel is actually probably designed by Masasio's friend Brunelleschi. And of course, so much more actually comes here too. This one, called The Mirror of Humanity, it's actually called Lo Specchio Umano, went ahead and also drew things in the space too. Although it was a little wonky, it did its job. And here's actually how you go ahead and draw this too. Go ahead, draw the horizon and the ground line, and then you went ahead, drew the front parts of the buildings. Afterwards, you drew some lines connecting to this central middle dot right here, and then afterwards, you went ahead and drew all this. All the rest of the buildings. Of course, later on, we also have this. This is actually a little painting that it just looks like it's on the ceiling. Now, you might think that this part is a painting, and this is actually, the rest of the part is actually the walls. But honestly, if you look at it closer, you realize that these aren't actual people, these are paintings. And that even the architecture also, this just looks fake to us because we're looking at it up close. If you're looking at it up and far away, it would look so much more real. We went ahead and it felt like the gods were coming down to greet us. And then, of course, we also have painting self-portraits. Now, painting self-portraits themselves was actually fairly new at the time. You might be thinking people should have done this already, but not accurately as this person too. Now, this is technically the first person who actually invented the self-portrait. This guy is called Jan van Eyck, and he was born in 1790, but then he died in 1441 as well too. Jan van Eyck himself was actually able to draw these self-portraits very especially too. He went ahead, looked at himself in the mirror, and then he went ahead and drew exactly as he saw it. Afterwards, his end result was this, and what made it more fascinating was the red turban that he was wearing at the time as he drew this too. Later on, other people were able to go ahead and draw this too. Now this is a self-portrait of Albert Dürer, and when do you think he drew this? This actual inscription here might actually help you too. He went ahead and drew this when he was 12 years old. And then of course we also have the famous, the legend, the great guy, the most costliest painter in the world, Rembrandt. Rembrandt himself also drew his own little self-portraits. It's just that they were a bit more emotional. And then we have Bible stories. Now back then, landscape painting of course actually went ahead. Bible stories outside our front door is actually the title of this. Now back then, people weren't able to actually read as well as many people. Not as many people were able to read back then, unlike today's modern world. And so the common man needed to be able to also wanted to know the Bible stories. At least they didn't want to know, but the priest wanted them to know. And so people decided to go ahead and draw things and their landscapes too. But they didn't really care about the landscape being accurate. It was just a simple wavy lines on water-like color. That was enough for them to actually sink lake. And then of course later we even had this. This is the Bible story of Christ going ahead, walking on water, and then, well, walking on water and trying to convince this guy you can walk on water too. Just believe. And there's so much more to actually go ahead and talk here too. Of course, this story obviously didn't happen in Switzerland, but it could have happened there. He went ahead and drew the story as if it could have happened there as well too. And with that, it just makes us more connected to his own little hometown country as well too. And then of course, we also have Albert Dürer again, and he technically drew the holiday painting too. He also drew the holiday painting. Instead of using photographs, then he went ahead and drew these kinds of holiday paintings. He went to holiday and drew the landscape that he saw. It was perfect, and try to make a picture of it too. Just make a picture of the landscape you made during a holiday as well too. Just no photographs, no cameras. Use your paintbrush and easel. And then of course we also have copperplate engravings. Now copperplate engravings themselves are actually pretty special as well too. Knights back then went ahead and engraved their armor with special kinds of patterns to make it look more beautiful as well too. And then artists just adopted the idea and went a step further. Now back then we don't have YouTube. Actually, let me just color different color. Back then we don't have YouTube, Netflix, X, formerly Twitter, Meta, formerly Facebook, and so much more here too. And of course with that, we can go ahead, and since we didn't have that, back then people went ahead and do their paintings, and then make copperplate copies of them too. So that all you have to do is splash ink all over the canvas, and then put it onto, and then like this is the ink on, this is the copperplate engraving, and then you have to put it on, and slam it on a piece of paper like a stamp, and then of course the painting would appear on there. And you could do that multiple times as well too. With that, you can go ahead and spread your paintings around too. Finally, people in Germany were able to find what English painters were drawing too. And then, of course, we also have finally made the invention of photography. Now, this is the first photograph. Now, the photograph actually took one click. And how long did the click take? 8 hours. He went ahead. Now, the person who made this, a guy named Nicéphore Niépce, went ahead, he's French by the way, he went ahead and made this little 19th century equivalent of a camera. He put it on his windowsill, and then he let it go. After a few hours, which by a few I mean 8, he went ahead and came out with this blurry photograph of the landscape. He couldn't make portraits of moving people yet. That was still a little far off. And so he was only able to do landscapes that were in the sunlight. And then his English colleague named Sir John Herschel went ahead and improved it. Finally, people could actually go ahead and take the picture of the landscape that they wanted to do. Some artists actually went ahead and instead of using models and sketches that they drew outside from then on, back before, they went ahead, took a photograph. And then they went ahead and used the photograph to make a painting equivalent. Of course, there are a few improvements to this as well. Here, it looks like his daughter is actually grumpy. Here, he was able to make her smile. And so much more too. Then, of course, we also have the invention of pen tubes. Well, back then, paint was actually went ahead and transported in pig bladders. Pig bladders. Once it opened, the paint had to be used. And then once you had stopped using the paint that's remaining inside there, let's say you had this much paint. And then after you use this much paint, you don't need to paint again for a few hours. And in those few hours, this paint will dry and you have to get completely new paint. And so this is what he did. He went ahead and made, so the person who made this paint tubes was called John Rand, and he went ahead and used sort of paint tubes. So he went ahead, squeezed out a little paint. He used that paint up really quickly, and when he didn't use that paint, he went ahead and closed the cap. When he used it, he took the cap off. When he didn't need to use it, he put the cap back on. And with that, we were able to go ahead and make these kinds of paintings too. Now people could just go and walk outside and then draw what they actually saw. Back then, that was a pretty big breakthrough. Today, it's the norm. And then, of course, even people like these people were able to draw whatever they could see as well, too. And, of course, I was able to even help draw Danse Le Moulin de la Galette, which is basically a ball dancing place. And then we finally got the invention of cartoons. Some of the cartoons I watched. And so much more as well, too. Katzenjammer kids themselves were able to draw things in their own little unique way as well too. Now the Katzenjammer kids once actually copies of some German twin cartoons. There's these cartoons drawn in Germany, but they lack the comic style as well too. This was drawn in New York. The cartoon was actually originated from America. Now the Katzenjammer kids went ahead, collect stray kids and hide them in Mama's room. And this is how it actually goes ahead here too. So hey, stray cats, let's grab him. Now we have a bunch of these stray cats. Let's put them in Mama's room to go ahead and scare her. Ooh, Mom's coming. Hide under the bed. So many cats. Run away. Mama is scared. Ah! And then of course Mama runs away. The boys are hugging each other. And then Mama spanks them. The Katzenjammer kids actually really loved fooling people and playing tricks on each other, on the Mama. And then of course this is called Summer Number 13. Yeah. And so much more actually here too. Then abstract painting came along. You can turn feelings into paintings now. Now that cameras did the job of landscape painting, now artists went ahead and started drawing their little feelings, their abstract paintings, what they felt like at whatever given moment they wanted to do. And of course, lots and lots of abstract paintings started popping up, such as this one. This is called Untitled, by the way. It's untitled. There's no title towards this. And can anything become art as well too? The ready-made artwork was actually turned into this too. I went ahead, signed the name on a urinal. I call this art. That was weird. I put a bicycle on the side of a wheel, on top of a chair. I call this art. People actually hated it, saying, that's not art, that's just, any kid can do that. But would any kid think of it? Maybe, but no adult would ever think of this too. Then it just also kind of changed our idea of art as well. And then finally we have and then our second to last is action painting. Now action painting itself is special for several reasons. Jackson Pollock invented this, and he went ahead and basically made a little hole in the bottom of his can, and he went ahead and let it drip, 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 as well as using his brush sometimes to go ahead and take it out too. This photographer named Hans Namov went ahead and took pictures of John Pollock, of Jackson Pollock, whenever he went ahead and did his drip paintings. Afterwards, of course, it just looked like he was dancing when he was painting. This was the end result of that particular painting as well too. And finally, we have graffiti art. Sad graffiti art that went ahead and showcased the entire world. What it was actually like to be like this too. Now, this graffiti art itself is about a dove. It seems like he or she is wearing a bulletproof vest. And then it feels like he or she is trying to be shot at too. But then again, peace is here. And peace has to be protected. I think that's the message here too. And then of course, we have this painting. This painting itself actually almost got the artist who drew this arrested and sent into court. But then, of course, it didn't happen. People realized that this was great and that this is actually art too. There's no hidden meaning, and this artwork was later re-established. And even this, anything can actually become art as well too. We can go ahead and make messages of art too. Messages of hope, messages of peace. lots and lots of cartoons and lots of reality TV shows went ahead and show all that. And with that, we end today's certain art inventions children should know. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys will use some of these inventions whatever you're painting. All those future painters out there. And I hope to see you guys soon. Until next time, smile out, please. Bye bye. Ba 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 da 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 da. Da 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 da. Dun 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 da da dun dun da da dun 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 dun.